In his recent trip to Dubai, One Championship Vice President Rich Franklin granted Physique TV a one-on-one interview to tell us more about his fitness routine. The former UFC Middleweight champion still maintains a healthy lifestyle, even though he already retired from the sport. Here's Ali Moqdad.
Ali Moqdad here with Celebrity Fit, and today's special guest is Rich Franklin, the former UFC Middleweight champion and now the Vice President of One Championship. And Rich, I gotta ask you, you always staying fit. I've been on tour with you a lot for all of last year, I think, and I always watch you eat these eggs, like 4 egg whites, and then you go on to eat salad. You live a pretty healthy life. Talk to me about your diet and your regimen.
Well, I'll tell you, traveling makes it very difficult for me to maintain a regimen, especially when I'm in countries where getting the food that I need is very difficult. But I was in Myanmar last week, for example, and fortunately they had a good breakfast buffet. So every morning I got up, I ordered 6 hard-boiled eggs, stripped all the egg whites out, and then had 4 regular scrambled eggs. On top of that, I had a huge salad every morning, a couple pieces of fruit, and then whatever carbohydrates I could find, maybe some steamed rice or a slice of bread or whatever. Bread's not my favorite, but I keep my nutrition very, very strict, 6.5 days a week, basically. But then when I decide that I want to do some junk, like, I let myself go.
So you have a cheat meal?
I do have a cheat meal. And in my cheat meal, like, for me, basically nothing is off limits. Like, I'm a pizza and burgers kind of guy, the greasier the better kind of thing. But I make sure that if I'm going to do that, that the rest of my week is, like, spot on strict.
Talk to me about your fitness routine. Do you still do a lot of MMA-related exercises, or is it more cross-training, cross-functional? What do you do in a daily workout of Rich Franklin?
Oh, it depends on the day. I still, when I'm not on the road, I still train like I'm getting ready for a fight. I'll have days where I go into the gym and I'm probably sparring and putting my body through unnecessary damage. But it's just, it's something that I'm passionate about. I would much rather go to the gym and spar for 60 minutes than get on a treadmill for 30. Personally, it's a great way for me to get cardio in, and I just love it. This is something, I mean, I was blessed to be able to do what I'm truly passionate about doing. Like, as an athlete, very few people in this world get to do that, and just because you retire from something doesn't mean that you lose the love for it. I actually, since I've retired, the one thing that's been nice about training is that I'm able to actually go back into the gym and just train for the love of it, instead of like, oh, I have to get ready for this particular fight, or I have to worry about this particular contract or whatever. It's like, I'm just gonna go to the gym and just work on being a better martial artist, work on this particular technique, and just truly for the love of it. So it's been refreshing.
Talk to us about your journey as an MMA fighter. You were at one point one of the UFC middleweight title holders. What was that like, being the champion back then when the sport was still maturing? And talk to me about where it is now.
You know, I fought at a time where the sport basically went from this, like, viewed as a human cockfighting thing to something that's more of a legitimized mainstream sport. Like, I was part of that transition into the mainstream, and it was at a time where you know, you went from the judo guy versus the karate guy to tough, like the first generation of tough, truly tough mixed martial artists, and it truly was just a really cool piece of history, I guess, and it was exciting to be part of that. I remember, like, I'll say this much. I remember the night I was working so hard. I remember putting so much effort into working to obtaining the title that I remember the night that I won my belt, and I went from this arena of like 20,000 screaming fans, and I walked to my hotel room and I set my bed, or my belt down on the bed, and I was looking at it, and I thought, like, and I'm looking around, there's like me and just like 4 or 5 of my friends and family in the room, and I thought, like, this is not what I thought a champion would feel like. And I don't know if I was expecting like confetti and parades and all that kind of stuff, but it was definitely an experience, and it's something that as I've watched the sport develop, like, you're seeing the second generation of fighters now, and it's really interesting to see these guys fighting that basically they've known MMA ever since they were kids. Like, mixed martial arts wasn't around until the year I graduated from high school. So I didn't grow up at the age of like 7 years old saying I want to be an MMA fighter, and that's what you're seeing today.
I mean, for the people that don't know, you used to be a teacher, right?
Yeah, actually, I taught high school math.
Wow. What's a big transition from math to jumping into the cage?
Actually, yeah, it was easier. Teaching high school math is a very difficult thing to do. So, but I'll say this: I didn't have very many students that weren't turning in their homework.
What would you tell aspiring MMA fighters now? In today's generation, the sport's evolved so much. So what's one piece of advice you would give them?
Best piece of advice I can give to young fighters is one, man, things don't happen overnight. And especially in this modern day that we live in, we live in a society of instant gratification. You know, I don't, for example, I don't have to write a letter and mail it and wait for 4 weeks until I get a response. Like I can send you a text and get a response right away. And that's the mentality of people in this modern society. Things don't happen overnight, and you have to put hard work into it. And if you're not willing to do that, you're not going to get anywhere. And the second piece of advice that I always give young fighters, because they're young and hungry and they're willing to do pretty much anything, you know, I'll fight anybody, anytime, anywhere. And it's like, you know what, treat this like a business and make smart business decisions. That's how you end up having a 10 or 12-year career in this industry. Hey, I'm Rich Franklin, Physique TV, be your best.